That means even after you do angioplasty or bypass, sometimes patient keeps on complaining about chest pain. So sometimes we are not sure whether it is because of ongoing coronary ischemia or because of incomplete revascularization, or whatever revascularization has been done that is not adequate, or there are some post-operative problem like obstruction of the vessel at the site of anastomosis or blockage of the stent. In that case, again we can ask for coronary angiogram. Then some patients with non-specific chest pain. So, and you don't think so that patient has typical chest pain, but you want to rule out coronary artery disease. Those patients also qualify for doing angiography. And second category is the patients who we perform non-invasive testing like treadmill test or bicycle ergometry, and they have high risk features such as blood pressure drop or significant arrhythmias during stress test. Then what are the contraindications? When you will be cautious and you will not be doing coronary angiography? When there is inadequate equipment, or the cath lab is not yet fully equipped, or there is inadequate manpower. Suppose technician is out of session, so in that case we can still do it, but we should be cautious, and sometimes emergency can arise in the table, so we should be cautious that in that case we are not supposed to do during that period of time, or maybe you can postpone whenever the full manpower is available, that time only we do it. Then there are some relative contraindications, such as whenever there is active bleeding or significant anemia, hemoglobin is less than 8, we will not do angiography. When hemoglobin is less than 10, we are not going to do angioplasty. Then active ongoing bleeding, such as GI bleed or PR bleed, patients with, you should always be asking during history taking whether he has any bleeding tendency or bleeding diastasis. It is uncommon that patient will be on anticoagulation, but you should still ask what medicines he is taking and then screen for any bleeding diastasis. Then patients with significant electrolyte imbalance, hyponatremia, hypernatremia or hypokalemia, especially when creatinine is elevated, you should be very cautious about hyperkalemia, because whenever you give contrast agent during angiography, the creatinine will go up. That will predispose for hyperkalemia, and hyperkalemia is very highly risky thing, because it can cause complete heart block or sometimes arrhythmias also. And on the contrary, hypokalemia also can precipitate ventricular tachycardia or ventricular arrhythmias when the patient has already ongoing ischemia. So these patients, especially when patient has hypertension, concentric LVH, this electrolytemia is very disastrous, and you should always check electrolytes whether they are normal or abnormal. If they are abnormal, just wait for some time, correct them, and then only send for angiogram. Suppose the patient has fever or any infection, you should always evaluate the cause of fever, treat it, and then only send for angiography. Because we are introducing catheter through vessel, and that catheter touches sometimes aortic valve and various cardiac structures. So if there is ongoing infection, that infection will land up in the aortic valve. So we have seen once or twice patients coming up with normal coronary angiogram, but after angiography they have landed with aortic vegetation. That means infected endocarditis of the aortic valve, only because they have some history of fever prior to the angiography. Okay, so this is absolute contraindication, infection. Then patients with digitalis and other medicines, you should be very careful. They predispose for hypokalemia induced arrhythmias. Pregnancy is absolute contraindication again. Then we can do in some cases, but not mostly you should avoid. Then recent CVA. Generally cerebrovascular accidents happen because of atherosclerotic embolism from arch of the aorta, from where you pass the catheter during coronary angiography. So whenever, suppose if you are doing bifemoral, it is going to scratch the upper part of the aorta, and suppose the aorta is atherosclerotic, that means once it scratches the aorta, the catheter scratches the aorta, part of that even fraction of the millimeters of that atherosclerotic material embolizes to coronary carotids and then through brain, patient will develop post-operative, means post-angiogram, there will be stroke. Ischemic stroke are not very common, but TIAs are very common. Actually, we are seeing almost 2 to 3 patients per year who have symptoms after angiography. They complain of transient weakness of upper limb or lower limb. So this is very well known, especially in elderly people where they have a significant vascular disease. Then renal failure, we discussed previously. We should postpone or manage renal failure properly and then only take up for angiography. Patients with uncontrolled blood pressure, arrhythmias or congestive heart failure, patient, you should probably stabilize them and then only you do it. Then what are the high risk features? When you will be cautious, will not be doing, or you will say, okay, you will anticipate more complications and discuss with patient. So patients generally more than 70 years old, they are morbidly obese or cachectic, very thin build. Then patients with diabetes is not very well controlled. Patient has significant respiratory disease and oxygen saturation less than 90%. In that case, you should be very cautious. Then what are the cardiac risk factors? Suppose patient has, on angiography, there is triple vessel disease or left main disease. Left main, I am going to show you immediately how left main looks. And when the patient has significant breathlessness, NYHA class 4 means patient has significant breathlessness because of cardiac disease. And significant valvular heart disease such as mitral stenosis, aortic stenosis, or patient has prosthetic valve or significant LV dysfunction. In that cases, you should be very cautious and should always explain that patient might have certain complications or heart failure post angiography. Then we underestimate the vascular risk factors, but that also should be discussed with the patients. For example, if the patient's blood pressure is very high, and if you do angiogram by femoral route, then the risk is very high that patient can get, sometimes if femoral artery is not very well compressed, then they will get hematoma, which is much more difficult to handle than coronary ischemia. Suppose the patient has recent CVA or severe peripheral vascular disease, patient is smoker, then you should be again very cautious, because suppose patient has lower limb ischemia because of femoral artery atherosclerosis, doing angiography through femoral route will be more dangerous, because you are going to puncture that artery which is diseased, and sometimes it may get obstructed, atheroembolic material may embolize, and patient may develop lower limb ischemia, from which we have done the coronary angio. So that is again a high risk feature. Then what are the complications? As we anticipate, it is less than 1%, but they do happen. Death is unlikely, but it is seen in 1 in 1,000 patients. Congestive heart failure is very common, almost 4 to 5% when the ejection fraction is less than 20-25%. Myocardial infarction is significantly less, but it can happen when there is ongoing ischemia and patient has active chest pain. Ventricular tachycardia and heart blocks are very common, especially if they are not on beta blocker, diabetes is not controlled, hypo or hyperkalemia is not corrected. Cardiac perforation is significantly less, but CVA can occur. We have seen a lot of TIAs or stroke once in a while, maybe once in 2 years we can see dense stroke, which may mostly it will recover, but sometimes it may not. So we have to be very cautious. And we should not forget about contrast agent reaction. Whatever you give contrast, nowadays we are using non-ionic contrast, but still we have seen, maybe last 8 years I have seen 3 anaphylactic reactions with contrast agent. Mostly they are manageable, nothing happens to the patient, but it is very dramatic situation. If you are not very worse, then patient may die on table if you don't manage properly. Okay, then other complications are local complications. For example, hematoma of the femoral artery or in the groin hematoma. Then vasovagal reaction, certain BP can drop down because of bradycardia and contrast reaction. Nowadays, previous generation of cardiologists used to do coronary angiograms through femoral route, but nowadays younger generation cardiologists, they are doing mostly by radial artery. I do it even ulnar artery route. Suppose if radial is not available, palpated. I'll just show you how the normal coronary angiogram looks, so that you will have some feel how it looks. I'll just take 2 minutes. Okay, so this is angiogram. We are doing it through radial route, and this common artery is left main coronary artery. This is left anterior descending. What you are seeing, this is left anterior descending, and there are branches which are called as diagonal. This artery is left circumflex artery, and this artery, the branches of the circumflex artery 1 and 2, these are called as OM. This is left system. So this is, since the heart is 3-dimensional, we are capturing all these pictures and 2-dimensional. We are going to take multiple views of this, one cranial, caudal, and right, left, anterior, posterior. Okay, so depending on the view, the anatomy will vary, and then we always confirm that suppose there is stenosis, then we should always confirm minimum 2 views. That is there. Sometimes just linear, sometimes it may be spasm. So it is advisable to take minimum 2 views. So this is again left anterior descending artery, this circumflex artery. I just run fast, and I am going to show you right coronary now. Okay, this is again left. Okay, this is right coronary. Please note that there is gap here, that is almost 99%. There is obstruction. This patient has unstable angina. That patient never had regional wall motionality. Echo was normal, but patient, look at that tightly narrowed artery where we have done. See that here. So we have done radial angioplasty in the same CT. See, this is another view of the same artery. Okay, this is the now therapeutic catheter, which is called as right catheter. This is the wire we are introducing to the lesion, and this is the wire we have passed across the stenosis. What we do is, this is balloon. What here is seen is balloon. We are dilating the lesion with balloon, and once you dilate it, it will look like something like that. There is dissection because of that coronary artery was blocked there, and we have inflated with balloon. The intima has separated from media, and this is called as dissection. Now we are going to introduce stent. Okay, this is the stent in place, which is uninflated. We'll position, we'll confirm in various views, and then inflate the stent. So this again we are confirming in other view that stent is placed in proper position before inflating. Now we are reasonably sure that in proper place. Now this is, we are inflating the stent. The stent is inflated, and we have removed balloon now. The stent is mounted on the balloon, so that we inflate the stent and take out the balloon. Now see that the obstruction was there, which is gone now. There is stent instead of this obstruction, and the blood flow to the distal coronary is reasonably well. The speed of the blood flow is significantly more, and follow-up of the patient said there is no significant angina. So that's how we